Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana, and today is sort of a landmark day in a sad way. This is the last show that's going to be aired from the SEC TV studio in Waterford. We, the New London Greens, have been broadcasting this show since October of 2004, so we're into our 21st year. And we're doing this live, but we'll probably have tape shows for the next, I don't know, weeks, months, and eventually settle somewhere. But I'm really glad that this last show is going to be on a pretty upbeat note, I think. So I want to welcome Eddie Long, who has been on the show before, a co-chair of the New London Arts Council.
Hi, Rana. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. I think the last time was exactly 5 months ago. It was July 17th. Yeah.
Was I wearing this shirt?
I don't know, but we could check. And Patrick Regan, who is a local artist whose work we'll talk about soon, and Cristin Rivera, who is on the Arts Council as the creative business representative, and who is associated with Annex, which is one of the more interesting, exciting stores in downtown New London. So welcome all of you.
Thank you.
I think I'll start with you, Eddie. Do you want to talk about 2024? It's been kind of a big year.
It has been a banner year for the Arts Council. 2024 has been. Lots of growth in our membership, in our programming. It's been a really good year. We brought some accompanying slides for today's show. The first one right off the rip is a 2024 recap, just to show a little bit of range about what the Arts Council's been up to. We have had a lot of experience, we've had a lot of different successes switching our locations for our meetings, like every monthly meeting is held in a different location. So that's been extremely helpful. You can see here, the top left is just an average New London Arts Council monthly meeting. This one's at the Lyman Allen. You can see all the reps are present. There's a few new faces. A new person to the group brought their kid in just to see what was going on. We usually have a new face at every meeting, which is something that makes me very happy. The next picture over to the right there in the middle and the top is another New London Arts Council meeting. That one is at the Community Garden. For Fresh New London, we have a strong partnership with them. And this summer we had one of our meetings outside in the community garden. That picture in particular makes me very happy. You can see busy New London Arts Council reps, but also you can see some of our elder statesmen in the arts community, right, that are very active still in the arts community. And you also see present some new faces. We have artists coming into New London from all over the world. In particular, Ramon here is seen. He was with us for a long time from Peru. He went back, but his perspective was very, very welcome. In the top right there is our first fundraiser ever as an Arts Council. That was with Thames River Heritage Park. We had a partnership with them, and we went on the water for a fundraiser. It was very nice. You can see Jeannie Siegel of the Guard there. The bottom left is Movie in the Park. That's a new event that some of the Arts Council reps have put together. It's sponsored by the Guard Arts Center, and it was a very, very, very good turnout. The picture does it no justice. There was
Now, was
a
that
lot of
Williams
people there.
Park?
That was Williams Park, so we got away from downtown a little bit. That was a very, very, very exciting event. It was the first thing we'd done like that. We'd never had such a big event. There was porta potties. I mean, it was a real event. It was really, really big.
You know it's a real event
was
if
a
you
real
need
event if
porta
there's porta
potties.
That's right. And then if we could just pull the slide up again, we can see two more examples of what the Arts Council's been up to. We are an active group. You can see the bottom center there. Some pretty notable New London faces you might recognize, but I have to go through that group because it's very important. On the left is Sarah Falman Flores. She's the art teacher for the RMMS, the magnet school here in New London. She's also the visual arts rep on the Arts Council. Kia Baird is from the Cultural Coalition. We have a very strong partnership with that regional group. In the center there is Rich Martin, who heads up our city's cultural district, and he's also a local business owner. In the middle on the bottom is Amy Hanoum. She is our member at large for the Arts Council. Very, very active member of the New London arts community. My big silly face up there at the top. And in front of me is Chevelle Moss Savage. She is the interim president of OutCT, another prominent New London nonprofit that we have a
And her
partnership
office
with.
is downtown too,
Her
right?
office is on State Street, that's right. And then, sorry, one more thing on the slide. Because it's gonna, then we'll come out of it. But I just wanted you guys to see the bottom right there, that tremendously huge group there. That's if you know the city well, that's Washington Street Coffee House, and you've never seen a crowd in there that big.
And this was very recent.
That's right, very recent. So that is from the art show for the kids of New London. Very huge turnout. Katie Fogg, who's a very prolific New London painter and art educator, she organized that show. I can't find words to describe it. How about that? There was tons of people there, tons of kids. All of the artwork was done by New London students from more than one school. Some involvement from the Arts Council there, but Katie really put that show together. And one bright spot that came out of that, to get back to the Arts Council, is we were able to coordinate with the City of New London and invite each of those students that were in that art show to be among the first students to show their work in the student art displays that will be at the community center coming next summer to New London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we do all kinds of stuff.
And you have a good relationship with the City of New London.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are very, very lucky. The City of New London is supportive of its arts community. It is. Where we count ourselves lucky is that they've really empowered the Arts Council for New London to be the boots on the ground and really working with the artists in the city to make sure that what we are doing is in line with what they need, with what they're looking for. No wasted motion, right? And so we're happy about our partnership with the city because it's just more chances for us to bring more opportunities to local artists, right? And so we brought up the community center, and that gets us right over to Patrick, because this year we did, in partnership with the city and the New London Recreation Department, we had a call to artists to open up to the artists of New London an opportunity to design the logo that would go in the center of the basketball court in the rec center. And our special guest today is the winner of that.
And before we hand it over to Patrick, there is a slide that says Community Center.
There is.
So we should probably show it before we show the logo slides, right?
There is. So just to kind of paint a picture for people, this is what's coming. This is an artist rendering from the architect's website. The prominent road on the right there brings you in from Howard. If you go all the way to the end and make the right, you're at the Fort Trumbull, and you can kind of see it sticking out in the top left, or the top right there. But the big white building in the middle there, that's the community center. And
you're right across the street from the old building that was left over from the sound lab that has been there.
Yes.
So
they're finally doing
that's
something with the space.
Namiog Street, I believe. Although I know they put the community center on like Community Center Way.
One rec center way, I think it is.
Yeah,
it has its own address now. Yeah, so anyways, that's the community center. That's where it's going to go, just to give some context. So yes, like most rec centers, there will be lots of sports options in there, but in a city like New London, if we're going to have a community center, it should reflect our community, and so the Arts Council's job is to make sure that art is very prominently featured in that space.
And that's kind of been one of my concerns with the rec center, is that it would become a rec center more than a community center. And
It's a good
thank you for helping keep that from happening.
Well, it's a good distinction to make, isn't it? And you know, we don't deserve all the credit. That's the point, is we are working with the city. We head up a lot of initiatives, but we're happy to supplement and help out as well. And so the rec department, actually, for New London deserves a lot of the credit. When the community center first came about, they took the initiative to open up to the City of New London's nonprofits and community groups a chance to do feedback forums to make sure that we were actually hearing from our active members of the community and their members that are less active. We wanted these groups to call on their members for feedback on what should go into the community center. That is all on the rec center. And so this effort to open up to the community to find somebody to do the court logo, this is just kind of continuing in that effort.
Okay, so now we can move on to Patrick.
No rush.
So I know you've been doing art for a long time, because I think I first met you more than a decade ago, and you were doing art then as a teen. But you've been in the news a little bit more recently. Do you want to talk about how you got involved with this project and with the Arts Council as well?
Sure, but yeah, I've been doing art pretty much my entire life, as long as I can remember. How I got involved with this project, I woke up one morning with, well, you know what? I was walking to the Dutch Tavern to hang up some Halloween-themed art I've done that Tim, the new owner there, asked me to do, and I actually bumped into Cristin and Frank Lowe. They were leaving the annex, and Cristin was like, "Oh, there's like this great opportunity coming up that I think you'd be like a great candidate for. You should definitely apply." And I was like, and she gave me the information, and I think it was just a couple days later, if I remember correctly, to apply. And that morning, I probably, after I woke up and did like look at my phone, I had multiple people just DM me on Instagram the post from the Arts Council about artists applying, and people were like, "Oh, you should do this. It'd be great." And I was like, "Oh yeah, thank you." I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, Cristin already told me." Thank you, I definitely will. And then one night I got a call from Eddie, and I knew Eddie a bit, but I definitely didn't know him as well as I did now, and then I figured that's what the call was about.
He was right.
Because I'm more than happy to be to represent New London in any way, but especially in the arts. So that was great.
And your art was actually pretty much seen quite a bit, because you've done the labels for the Talks, right?
Yes, yeah, I've handled like the majority of Talks Brewing artwork, whether it's labels, their logo, merchandise. Yeah, they're great. I love Talks Brewing.
So people, around New London, even if they didn't know that they've seen your artwork before, they have.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think of it like that, but yeah.
We have a couple of slides that we might want to show. I do think the newspaper or Facebook might have publicized the logo a little, but if people...
Social media, yeah.
Social media more so. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah,
the newspaper
maybe.
did.
The newspaper didn't really publish the logo itself, representation of the logo itself, but
They did a small write-up.
yeah, the announcement of who won was there for sure.
Well, there was a contest, right, for the people.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had some samples.
Yeah, we all had to
example.
apply, and then it was up to the Arts Council to decide who they thought could handle it best.
Yeah, we got to look through a lot of good entries. It was a very difficult decision to make. The Office of Development and Planning for the City of New London empowered us to make a selection committee. So we did that, and Patrick's Patrick's work rose to the top.
Well, and
Thank
it
you,
is
man.
true that, in New London there are a lot of good artists. I kind of remember, oh gosh, it must be at least 25 years ago, the first banners that went up downtown, and what the selection committee went through to figure out what the first banner design would be.
Well, it's always been prominent in our community. It always has. It's just the Arts Council's job to try to grow it where we can, but really it's about just maintaining. A lot of the work is maintaining. People forget about the arts sometimes, and we can't let that happen.
And just speaking on how Eddie talks about the community, like I feel very lucky I'm a lifelong New London resident, and I feel like if I was living somewhere else without a strong art community, there's no way I would get connected to things like I am now. So, it's definitely a tight community thing, which I'm very appreciative of.
I think for a lot of us who have been attracted to living in New London, even if we're not artists, and I'm not at all artistic, but there is something about the community. I spent one term on the Board of Ed back like 15 years ago, and I used to, at that time, get out a lot more and go, to music all around in all the bars and see all the art shows, because I felt like that was like the real New London that I liked, and not the governmental stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe even more true now than then, that, it isn't exactly like they're two separate New Londons, but there are some parts of it that definitely draw you more.
I think Eddie's doing a great job bridging them right now, actually. He's like a representative for artists who know how to talk to artists, and he knows how to talk to government. So
It's
speaking onto that as well.
that's a very
Which is an
specific
important thing for us
compliment.
to
Thank you.
It's an important thing.
I like to think of myself as an avatar, but really, we're just trying to react to what we're seeing, right? And I think Cristin would agree with that. As Arts Council reps and in the leadership of the Arts Council, we have a very, very, very important job. We really, really do. The Arts community in New London, always been prominent, always been responsible for economic growth, always has, as long as I can remember. And so it's not always about dollars and cents in that regard. Sometimes it's just about drilling down and figuring out what the individual artists need. That's always the most important. And I'm lucky enough to say that the Arts Council is stuffed with talented, committed, passionate, creative people. All of them love this city, and all of them are working very, very hard to make sure that the arts community has what it needs. Being responsive. Right.
And I think there's always been a drive, like it's a consistent drive through for the community and for artists. It's really well said, because it's bridging that gap. It's been there forever. And New London's always had that love and flavor and grit and music and talent. It's just how do we bridge it to actually make things happen?
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate what the Arts Council is doing, because I think that on a more governmental level, it's not the easiest economic driver to nurture, because there are a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of small businesses. I contrast it with big employers like the hospital or EB, and it's like you're not dealing with a lot of entities there to meet people's needs, and it doesn't add as much to the life of the city as well. But with artists, it's like there are, how many Arts Council members are there from different disciplines?
From different
within
disciplines,
the
there
arts?
are 6, and then the rest of the leadership. I mean, we all come from a different art discipline, but there are 7 specific Arts Council reps that represent a different discipline.
Yeah, so it's a lot of moving parts, and each part is small business, which I believe is a lot more resilient than just going with the big players, but it takes more work. And I think without the Arts Council, I don't think the governmental departments would really be up for it.
Well, I mean, the formation, that's true. That's true. The formation of the Arts Council couldn't have happened without the blessing of the city, is like
Right.
the term that they use. But it has to have backing from the city. Artists could have collected and formed something called an Arts Council, but if it doesn't have buy-in from the city, then it wouldn't count, really. And when
Right.
I say it doesn't count, I mean, it could get some work done, but the state of Connecticut wants the city of New London, or any city that's going to have a cultural district, which is about money into the tourism sector. If you want that, you first must establish your city's affinity for arts and culture by establishing an Arts Council. So it's very true to say that the New London Arts Council was a necessary prerequisite to the cultural district, which we now have and enjoy, and it is solely responsible for enhancing tourism, which goes back to what you were saying. You know, it's an economic driver. It usually comes by way of venues, maybe some art galleries, but I mean, we have a store in New London that sells guitars. We have a store in New London that sells pianos. So I mean, don't tell us, you know what I mean? There's all different types of art-related businesses, and we have a lot of them.
And for the small businesses, now that there's online presence as well, it can kind of expand businesses even where there isn't a lot of foot traffic. And
Big time.
yeah,
Yeah, big time. I mean, I think too, it's like linking, like there used to be like Main Street, right? That was like the one thing. But I think realizing that New London has these, like is in need of a New London Arts Council to push it even further, and like the cultural district doing its job as a small business, it's nice to have the online because you can kind of bring in more of Connecticut. You bring in more Connecticut, and we get the like underlying factor of tourism in New London is just like, I think people don't realize how many people walk off the train and come up into the stores or come off, like there's a lot of that. Or people that come from New York. I had 2 different couples that were traveling, just hanging out in New London for the weekend. Wow. So I think there's a lot more of that. And with Connecticut College being downtown too, that's huge. So it's really about linking all these things and then being able to have the avenue of New London Arts Council to get things accomplished. Right? It's like there's a lot of talk about things, people have a lot of ideas, but it's like, okay, here's the actual steps to success. So that's been major in the last year especially.
Yeah, sorting out what that looks like, what those steps are for people. You can look to other cities and other towns and see what they're doing, but that's never been enough for New London. I mean, you can give us a template, but we're not going to be satisfied till we make it our own, and that's probably my favorite part of being on the Arts Council, that we can do so many things that are established in other cities, but making it our own is what's really making it fun.
Well, one of the things about New London that I'm from Philadelphia, which is scaled way bigger, but has sort of the same kind of like gritty creativity as New London. And one of the things that I really like about New London is that people can do kind of outlandish things, and the passers-by just take it in stride. It's like, I'm involved with the group that restores the mural that Denny designed at Green and Golden every year, and there have been years before they repaved the intersection that the cracks were like really deep, and we'd be in the middle of the intersection with like this, rubbery rope stuff and torches, and we didn't have to close the road for that. We did for the painting day, but not for like the prep days. And people would just walk on by or drive on by. Okay, there were just a few people in the intersection with torches. Just another day in New London.
Another day in New London.
And I really think that. I don't know, as sort of a fun dimension that you don't get with most places you go.
Yeah, there's a level of like liberation, or like there is, like I feel like when you are, well, for lack of a better term, sort of the underdog of a little city, it's like you can kind of stretch those, you stretch your arms a little bit where people, it's like, I think it comes down to like, there's a beauty in being uncomfortable. So New London has this, grit is a perfect word, right? It's like we can make people a little uncomfortable and kind of stretch the boundaries a little bit because we don't need to fit into a box.
Right.
You know, we really don't. With the support of the city, we really don't need to.
Yeah. and I feel bad, but you know, there are some people, forces that would like us to fit more into a box. It's like, don't do it.
Don't do
Don't do it. Don't go there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly correct. And like for myself personally, I mean, this is why I like working on the Arts Council, but I mean, I'm already driven to kind of maintain people's appreciation for art, because what I really am hoping is that they will appreciate the idea of a creative mindset in general. Your art discipline doesn't matter at all. But as long as you're open to creative mindset, which means you're open to out-of-box solutions, that's what's always been key for me. I talk about it all the time. And that kind of thinking really starts when you're younger, when you can put down a pen and a pad and pick up a different instrument or utensil and make something. And kids, that sticks with kids. It stuck with all of us. We each use a different medium, but we haven't stopped choosing to create and express ourselves by some other means, than just spoken word, and that's also a sufficient way to express yourself. But for us as more visual artists, it's just really, really great that we can have an environment like this where all of the different crazy ideas we have can be so well received, or at least, considered, because it validates us. It helps us remember that this pursuit of out-of-the-box thinking is valid.
And I think we are seeing more activity on the ground downtown than we were 5 years ago. I'd say maybe 10, 15 years ago there was more, and then there was a little bit of a lull, and it seems like it's coming back.
Like a sustained effort, I think. We all suffered from the pandemic, but what do you think of that? Because I feel like we were kind of stagnant, and then the pandemic came, and I feel like it kind of reignited all of us. Like we were just talking about talks. That's a big move.
Yeah, well, I mean, out of the pandemic came the annex.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
totally from the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because like we had a space, I kind of was in New London in like 2007, 2008 when Muse Gallery was on Golden and Green and Golden Street Gallery. And so that era was like 2007, 2008, 2009, where it was very thriving. And we were kind of tapping into the support from Main Street, and Barbara Neff and the Hygienic was doing their thing. So there was a good sort of thing happening, and then it died out a little bit after like 2000. Well, I moved to New York City for a little while, so I was gone. But when when we moved back, it was sort of like starting to creep back in, and then the pandemic happened, and then it was like, oh, okay, like I feel like the pandemic gave people more of appreciation for just being creative and being free and being themselves and finding yourself and wanting to express yourself. And if there's one thing that New London does, is it gives you that space to exactly do what we were saying, just be who you want to be. So, Frank being one of the co-founders of the Annex, kind of, we were doing pop-ups through the pandemic, and he was like, oh, Pat, we got to bring Pat. Pat does a lot of the famous New London's graphics, and so there was this little group of us that was kind of like, let's just pop up in the store and see what happens. And the support from the community was like, whoa, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, we had, Develop New London come in and ask us if we needed anything, and are you guys opening a business? So there was a big, eager push for businesses to be downtown, which was like super welcoming and super like, oh, okay, like maybe we should stay here and do this. And then other artists coming in. I mean, like, hey, can I sell my stuff here? And we're like,
went from 5 or 6 people, 6 artists to
I think it was up to 12
50 or something.
Yeah,
it's
like
untold now.
Yeah,
Untold
now we're at
number.
like 50, but it was really, it's almost like we just were like yes, and then everything else just fell into place. So it was very organic.
Yeah, well, there was a real gap, I think, before that. I remember spending time downtown, and people would get off the train, and it's like, where can I get a cup of coffee, and can I get something, some kind of souvenir from New London? And it's like, I'm really sorry, there isn't anything. But in about maybe I want to say maybe 2005, 6, whatever, there really wasn't much.
Yeah.
So before we go and talk more about the annex, we do have one more slide that shows the rendering of the logo that we at least want to show people.
Yeah.
Looks
What was
so
what was
good.
your inspiration here, Patrick?
Not to be too cliche with the nautical stuff with New London, but I can't help it. I love that stuff.
Well, you're talking about the winning design, so we love that stuff.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The majority of people chose. Yeah, you know, I did 5 different graphics. I think the Arts Council put out 3 for the community to vote on social media. So like, the majority, I guess, agreed with that one as well. But you know, they all had a little bit of a nautical theme. I did one that my first one was more of a digitally painted mural that we're gonna hopefully save to use for something else in the future.
Yeah, we're gonna find a home. for
That one, I poured a lot into that one, but it was a little much to be a logo in the center of the basketball court, opposed to this one. But you know, I was trying to do something aesthetically pleasing that could fit in a circle, that communicates well, has enough contrast, can be read from far away.
And the lighthouse is very historic.
Oh, it's the 4th oldest one, I think, in the country.
Yeah, you know, there's a postage stamp with that lighthouse on it.
Yeah, I think even during the Revolutionary War, George Washington paid out of his own pocket to help keep that light lit, because that was important. We had the biggest armada of privateers taking out British ships that would come past Race Rock, past Fisher's Island into the Sound to resupply there. So, you know, this has been an important spot for a very long time. I mean, and then before the colonial settlers too, you know, there's been something
Right.
going on here forever.
Arts, culture, and history. I mean, that's it. That's all of it. I think that lighthouse is the concept of a lighthouse is really great because I think it's a great connector between where we are now and where we were. What do we always
Yeah.
say? Like, whaling is our legacy, but it is not our identity. Not anymore. It's
Right.
not anymore. We're talking about our identity. New
Right.
London is an arts and culture city, but we pay homage to our roots in that regard. And so I think the lighthouse is right in the middle there, totally relevant and modern and still like very, very exciting to people. And it says New London, but it isn't exactly just a picture of a whale. So we can have both.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did throw a whale tail in there, just
Yeah.
you know, homage to the poor whales that were massacred for so long.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I saw the whale in there. I think it's got another kind of good message too, that, you know, New London thrived from whaling for, you know, a pretty long time, but then that was gone. I mean, it just ended, and sometimes you can't control that. There just weren't whales to kill, which, I mean, it's kind of to think about it.
Right.
But and then there were a lot of, you know, factories, ironworks and felt works and silk works and linoleum and shoe factories, and you know that era kind of, you know, passed. And I think it's good to remember that we've had this history, and it hasn't all been linear. We've had to reinvent ourselves lots of times, and we may want to be reinventing ourselves right now.
Or expanding on this new identity, I think is more what I would say. Because coming out of, you're right, you forget about the factories, coming out of whaling, and then there's a long period of factories and industrial revolution and all of that, and then like many cities, that went away for us, but we latched on to something else. We really took a chance on arts and culture, we really did. Places like the Guard, you have to talk about places like the Hygienic, this is part of our history. This is the region deciding that New London was a place where you could go for performing and visual art. That happened. That was very important. That started to shape our new identity, and then we expanded on it. We continue to this day. I think we've settled into our role nicely as a city.
Well, I mentioned that we've been doing this show for 20 years, and I think it was about 20 years ago that the Guard had come online, not that long before, as being a real performing arts center and not a place that that had B grade or triple X movies, which I kind of remember from the 80s, not. And then the hygienic also. So one of our shows back in about, I don't know, 2004 or early 2005 was Jim Stidfold talking about, growing the arts community, and at the time pinpointing how many arts-related businesses had just sprung up in New London over that 5-year period.
Well, consider this, so that places like the Hygienic, we talk about the Guard leading the way for arts, and obviously the Guard, performing arts. What a great stage they have, a lot of great programming, but in this new version of the Guard, they're showing a lot of visual art. They have an actual gallery in there now. They've hit the gas. And so I think it's a fun little note to make that even something like our prestigious, beloved Guard also appreciates the importance of visual art and is dipping their toe in that game. Well, they've jumped all the way in. I mean, they have a gallery in there. They've hung plenty of shows. Some of our members have hung art there. So you just can't say, it can't be overstated how important visual art is to New London or how important art is to New London.
Now, I can't help but notice that your shirt says the famous New London.
It sure does.
Can I guess that it came from the Annex?
You sure can, and you'd be correct.
So how did the idea of the Annex come about?
Well, it's funny because the name is called the Annex because Frank Lowe came up with that because, as I mentioned, in 2008, 2009, he had Muse Gallery and Shoes, and we had also another little gallery called Attic and Golden Street, and so this was kind of
Attic, was that on Green Street?
On Green Street,
I kind of remember it, yeah.
And so when we kind of came back together, it was like, well, in a way, this is sort of an annex of that, so it's like, obviously way past time, but sort of more or less the same concept. Basically, independent artists coming together, an artist collective per se, where we just display our artwork and sell what we make. We have clothing, apparel, we do our own screen printing, t-shirts, jewelry, wall art, the list goes way on. I'm forgetting a lot of things, but basically it was just kind of like we needed to be creative again and we needed a place to sell it, and there isn't another place like that, so it was like, we're gonna do it again 15 years later. So so we kind of came together and it sort of popped off. It's interesting because when I think about moving into like our project, the Growing Artist Project, it's really only because of what we went through. Like when I was 17 and went to New London, there was the Secret Theater, there was L&G, and then a few years later, the Do Art. There was also, Station 58. And so there was always people doing these things, and those people honestly gave us the outlet. So, when I was like 21, was like I was looking to like Sean Murray and Rich Martin and Kat Murphy and Susan Hickman. Like those were the people that were doing kind of like kind of as my inspiration and mentor, where it was like they were willing to say, oh yeah, come show your artwork here. And I know Denny and Krista and Frank kind of feel the same way, where we were given opportunities, and so the Annex just feels like a way to like, yes, sell our own work, but also give new artists an opportunity, to grow, to evolve, and to kind of collaborate together and be a cool little boutique shop that has art and,
That's exactly what I felt like it gave me. It was like I was kind of
yeah.
just below that like generation, and that's how I'd look at you or Denny or Frank, and also Rich Martin and Sean,
Yeah.
Sean, I had my first like art show in New London, like solo art show at the Oasis because of Sean. In 2016. So I look up to all you guys like that for sure. And
It's always been a welcoming community. I think It's just about how we tap into each other and how we make things happen. So
Yeah, opening up the spaces. I mean, it's so critical, that people understand in the region and in the city, all of the different places there are to view art, but also show your art. And I mean, for every different skill set, really and truly, for every different skill set. We started this conversation talking about an art show that was completely comprised of kids, I think under 5th grade, maybe, I think that was like the oldest. and every experience level. I mean, it's important that people understand that New London is a hub for this sort of thing. I don't want us to ever get away from that. I never want us to get away from that. People should be coming from all around the region and seeing what they can accomplish here, maybe along their way to some other bigger spot. I'd like to think that New London is a stop on people's map that they'd like to make.
Yeah, and not necessarily people who have made it, but people who are on the path.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll talk about the Annex's Growing Artist Project, but that's what I mean is we all just share that, and I've been there too, where you're kind of doubting your own skill set or your ability to do this thing, and that's sad because you don't doubt your skill set. You're wondering if you can share it with people. Sometimes it's a little bit of both, and so any opportunity for an artist to go out and take that next step and put themselves out there, I mean, that's critical. It's critical.
Okay, we have a slide on the Growing Artist
Yeah,
project, so maybe you can talk about that, Cristin.
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to get a grant through, I think it's ARPA and the Cultural Coalition. I've got to make sure I say all the right people involved. I have it on the website in case I forget anyone. But this was, I believe, last year we applied. Basically, the Growing Artist Project is more or less what we already do, but in a more concentrated fashion. So first, we pick a participant, an artist of any type of level, skill level, or emerging, or whatever levels they're on. We're kind of meet them where they are, and go about the whole idea of exhibiting their work. Maybe like merchandising, getting stickers, pins, like what goes into just becoming an artist that also can sell merchandise. Obviously at the Annex. So our first participant was Jose Serrano, who's an amazing photographer. He was just popping in to our shows, and we were like, hey, you should apply. We put out the application, still open if anybody wants to apply. But he was an easy pick because honestly he showed up, and he was like, yeah, I'm at the will. Like what can I do? I wanna participate and grow and basically find that avenue towards what does it look like to have a show. We sit down and we plan with him, all of the steps of like framing his work, what pieces, even like guidance in like how to come up with a theme for a show, what show, who would you want to exhibit with? He invited a couple of his photographer friends, and he has a community of photographers that they go out on photography walks and whatnot. So it was a great opportunity to meet a young artist. He's, I think, 24, and it's weird to think that now I'm the mentor, but like that's what it is. So it's like the circle of life. But it's a really cool opportunity for all of us, at the Annex, myself and Cristin, Denny, and Frank, to kind of work with emerging artists that haven't really had this type of opportunity. And obviously they get funding and we get funding to put it all together, and they exhibit, and then more or less they kind of just become part of the team. It's like once you sell work, you're kind of like, well, you're part of the team now, so join in. Our next artist participant is going to be Jalen Claudio, who is she's already like kind of taken over. She's got artist meetups at Golden Owl. She's an amazing illustrator and sign decorator, and it's going to be a really great show. But it's really, the joy is like I learn as much from them as they learn from me. Right. It's like, wow. It's like even when I feel like I met Patrick and Semra, it's like them coming in with us. I was like, okay, cool. There's still like young people out there that want to like make this happen and have the same types of hopes and dreams. I think, as we said earlier, people really, you become an addict for New London. It's not, so much a choice. I don't feel like I have a choice, It's like, I much rather should probably be home resting, but I'm like, no, I want to do all of these crazy things. Yeah. So, it's a good opportunity, and basically it's for 5 artists. So we have I think we have about maybe 2 participants left. So anybody who wants to apply can go to theannexnl.com and apply for it. But we're so thankful to have received a grant, and grants there's many out there, and it's very overwhelming. But I'm just trying to dive in as much as we can, because it truly is what keeps a business like ours going. So we're excited.
Good candidates for that program
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Jose is, he started coming to the Arts Council meetings, I want to say maybe a year ago, and he's been to every meeting since, and he always shows up with his camera. That was the first thing I noticed about him when he started to show up, is he always has his camera with him, which I thought was really cool. And then you talk about Jalen, growing artists for sure, but from where I'm sitting, this is a community leader.
Exactly.
So can't you have both hats?
Yeah.
Because she's very young
Yeah.
and still learning the tricks of the trade, and what options are out there for her. But somehow, while that's going on, she's still very much leading her arts community. She really, really is. So I love both of those two artists, and I'm glad they're in the program. I really am.
So we have another slide about Explore New London. And I'm not sure what we're supposed to say about it, but maybe we'll show the sign.
I just thought it
and-
was a fun opportunity to just get us a little bit more into today. I mean, Cristin can probably speak to this more than I can, but this is just some stuff that's been happening in New London, like super recent.
So Explore New London and Neff Productions, obviously continuously through decades and decades has, put on events in New London, and the left slide being the tree lighting, which was another great success. And on the right is Frank Lowe, is Santa Lowe, from at the annex from the Santa shopping
Famous
stroll,
South Pole.
the Santa stroll, Santa shopping stroll,
Yeah.
which just happened. So yeah, I mean, I think with Explore New London, everybody coming together and kind of participating in these events is massive.
Yeah, and
It's been great for us, I know.
Yeah, explorenewlondon.org too is a place where people can go and find a complete list of our galleries and studios in New London as well.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, I'm told. So let's talk a little bit about 2025
Ooh, let's.
that's coming in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, we're already thinking about next year. We do a strategic planning session every single year. That will be Tuesday, January 28th, is our annual strategic planning session. Before then, we'll have a networking social. We have an event about 3 or 4 times a year, does the Arts Council, where we encourage people to leave their notebooks at home and just come network with each other and talk to your peers about what's going on. This is some of the most important work that can take place. That is the arts community, those members that show up there. And again, it's no work, it's just coming to hang out with each other, reminding each other that you're there, basically. And the Arts Council also has been invited to do a group art show in the Groton New London Airport.
So you're moving across the river, too.
Yeah,
Taking
temporarily
over.
for one show.
Taking Groton back.
Yeah, we're going to take over Groton next. No, but we're just really happy about that because it reminds people that the Arts Council is not a stuffy group of administrators. I mean, we're an active group of creators, and we're very excited about what we can call our first group art show.
And the last slide, now that we're down to about 2 minutes, is how to get in touch with the Arts Council and, contact info.
Well, before we talk about this one, I wanted to give Patrick a little bit of time just to tell people where they can find his work.
Good idea.
Oh, thank you, Eddie. I am only on Instagram. It's fair_harbor, spelled with AIRE and harbor OUR. I took that from just some New London history, and then you can also find my work at fairharborcreative.com.
There it is.
Okay, and when we post this on YouTube, we can put all the URLs in it.
Oh, there you go.
So, in the last 2 minutes, what are the last words you want to tell people about how to get involved, how to follow up on what you're doing?
Cristin said it best. Our most active members just show up. The Arts Council leadership is made up of some committed New London arts community members, but it's open to the public. I mean, we're not a stuffy bunch. We're not. We meet in different places every month, and you really just got to come hang out with us, and you could be on the team.
Do you have a place set for January yet?
No, those locations haven't been determined. However, you can stay abreast of our movements on newlondonartscouncil.org. Everything we do is updated on that website, but you can see what we're doing day to day on Facebook, of course, and we're very active on Instagram as well, New London _Arts Council. Please follow along with us. I always like to joke, you know, we don't have 2 million followers. We have almost 2,000, but I would rather rock with 2,000 passionate people that know us and, you know, will rock with us than 2 million people who I'll never meet. Our followers are very, very passionate about the arts community, and we love them.
Well, the thing that I see is really great is that they span the generations. So,
Yes.
so many economic development decisions like are good now, but what will they look like in 30 years? But this, you can kind of see what it will look like in 30 years when you have an art show, you know, an art program for elementary school kids,
Right.
and the
Bingo.
place is jam-packed.
Yeah.
Bingo.
It's diverse in so many ways, It's a beautiful thing.
Well, thank you, Eddie and Cristin and Pat, for coming on the show. I'm not sure when we'll be back on live. Sometime in January, I hope, but we will keep churning things out. But I don't know, end of an era. But I'm glad that this show ended up being the last one.
We are too.
Happy to be a part
Yeah,
of it.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. We're
And
honored.
thanks for all the shows, Rana. Thanks for drilling
Fantastic
down, doing the work, getting the answers that everybody
And
needs.
actually, basically, just showing up.
That's how it starts.
That's what you
how
got
it
to
starts.
do.
You just have to show up. And but maybe when we land in a new home, we'll figure out other ways to expand.
Yeah.
So
Well.
yeah, so bye to everyone, and we'll put this on YouTube. And thanks again, and check out frequently what's going on with the Waterford Arts Council.
Please.
When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. And it won't do no good to be crying out loud, babe, or cursing the sky.